Welcome to another episode of Using AI at Work. Today we have a special guest, Sam JT, an AI enthusiast and entrepreneur. Sam transitioned from a corporate career as an actuary managing investments in the mining industry to pioneering an Amazon FBA and eventually embracing AI. He's been at the forefront of using AI tools like HeyGen and 11 Labs to revolutionize customer engagement and branding. Sam's latest venture, Authority Book Profits, helps experts publish their books using AI-driven processes. Now, let's get started. Welcome to Using AI at Work. I'm your host, Chris Daigle. Each week, we'll be learning how today's business owners, entrepreneurs, and ambitious professionals are getting more done with smart use of tomorrow's tech. Let's get started. All right, everybody. On this episode of Using AI at Work, I'm excited to introduce Sam JT. Sam and I were first connected through a mutual acquaintance who said, hey, you got to check out my buddies who are doing some really cool stuff in AI. Being in AI, I was very interested in what they did. And Sam and his partner were just very open. It was a fantastic conversation. I was really intrigued with what they're doing. And now that leads us to, after many months of planning, we're finally here on the podcast together. So Sam, before we get started, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you're up to?
Yeah, sure. I'll do a quick intro. So I used to, feel like most people work corporate like 10 years ago. I was an actuary, so like managing investments for one of the biggest mining company in the world. Then I kept doing like these kinds of investments, so heavy math, like forecasting, these kinds of things. And I enjoyed it, but I was like, I'm sure one thing that helped me when I was doing that was I looked at my boss's boss job and like, do I want to, if I keep doing what I'm doing in 20 years, like I'm going to have this job. Is that what I really want? Like, I'm going to work 20 years to do what he's doing. I'm like, yeah, hell no, that's not what I want. And then I figured I'm going to find something else. And then I started doing Amazon FBA. That was 2015 while I was still working. And then eventually that grew into something big. Exited that in 2019. And then started as a consultant for that specific thing. So like I had sold a lot on Amazon and started helping people there. And slowly but surely that I sold another business 2 years ago. And then sort of AI. I had been using AI for one specific thing in that business, like creating the videos. Like everyone knows now with HeyGen, like these kinds of tools. But back then there was one tool, I think it was Windsor. It's still there. Like I was using that. It was great. I was like, wow, can't believe you can do that back in 2021.
For like product videos?
No, for like follow-up. So like your customer would buy the product, you film one video, but that was in 2021. And that was like, wow, there was this early company. Yeah, it was pretty expensive. But it was like, wow, can't believe like we can actually do this. This is insane.
Yeah.
And so, but then when DALL-E came out, that was like the thing. I was like, wow, this is so cool. The images were horrible. The DALL-E 2, but it was so cool. Like I spent hours and hours, and then obviously ChatGPT arrived, and then I was like, I got to do this full time. I love it. So then transition teaching people in AI, but now we're doing different things, which I know we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear about that. And I didn't realize that you were using the AI powered tools as early as you were. Before we move into that, that's one of the things that personally, we use HeyGen a lot and product videos and that sort of thing. But HeyGen recently, I don't know about recently, but it's a new feature with the custom greetings, right? Where you can record the video and then it'll dub in the individual's name. Mm-hmm. You were using that in 2021, and even though it was expensive, you still used it. Can you tell me what were the results? Did it have an impact?
Yeah, especially for like obviously branding, like the experience customers get, which is like, wow, the founder actually takes time to he's sending me a video now. Because if you send an email, most people know it's automated at this point. Like maybe 10 years ago, people like didn't know, but I think it's pretty clear now. So like the experience, because I used to do a lot of personal videos myself. Like there's a tool Bonjoro where you would do it manually, like film one video at a time, would take like 45 seconds each, and I would do it because I knew like the impact it had on like for
Interesting.
follow-up sequence, for people, like for repurchase rate, these kinds of things. And so it had a big, I don't remember the exact like percentage, but big enough that the cost, even though it was really high, didn't matter.
Did customers comment on it?
Oh yeah. Even people now we've been doing it a little bit, but like obviously back then it was even crazier because that was not something people thought existed. It wasn't as good, but still people went crazy. It's like, wow, I can't believe you took the time. Like we would get
that's awesome,
an incredible response rate, and it's crazy to think. Like, it still works extremely well, but back then
I'll be trying it tomorrow. Trust me. I've been in HeyGen doing a lot of stuff, and that was one of the things. And so, folks, if you're not following what we're talking about here, HeyGen is a video avatar creation tool. So you can, Sam or I could go on there and we could create a digital version of ourselves that was very high quality. And it can speak in any language, and it can, do introductions to podcasts, which actually this podcast, the introduction was done with HeyGen and 11 Labs. But they have a function that allows you to record hey, saw you joined our newsletter, or we're excited, or, whatever it was, bought the product. But they have it set up to where you can basically take your customer list and upload it to HeyGen, and it will be a video of you saying, hey, Sam, hey, Chris, hey, Debbie, whatever. And, those touches, I just got off a phone call talking about this. The biggest challenge with creating content with AI is the market is becoming more sophisticated, and their association with purely synthetic output, right, that doesn't feel like a human was involved, and it just feels like somebody copied and pasted from ChatGPT, that's turning people off, right? So the effort that I've been working on for a long time, and I know you guys have as well, is how do I make that synthetic content an authentic experience, right? Not fooling people, and this video is a perfect example of that. Hey, I bought a product from somebody. Oh, what's this email? Wow, that's the owner of the company. And he's saying, hey, thanks, Chris, for buying the product. You're 100% right. That stands out. And it's synthetic, but an authentic experience. So with that being the case, I know that you guys are producing a lot of written content now because your primary business is authority books, right? Authority Book Profits is the business. Can we talk about what that process looked like of going from synthetic output to, hey, this is high quality, like a human probably wrote this?
Yeah. Just before we get into this, like to add on one last thing that we did that was super helpful was, and it's even easier. It's instead of doing video, or in addition to video, we did obviously AI voice, but like sending through text. So like texting people could create the voice with 11 Labs after they purchase, and send them the like an AI voice there, which was interesting too.
I love it.
People like there's always issues there, so you have to be careful. Obviously, the opt-ins and these kinds of things, but I haven't seen, like, I've received some AI videos, very few, so there's still a big opportunity there, but I've never received anyone sending me like an AI voice message like that.
That's easy.
Last year, we used to do it quite a lot because we have like a different business and it was just AI specific. And so it was like an easy way to get people to then send. But yeah, it's a great way to do it as well.
Those are cheaper. Great tips. Yeah.
Yeah. And then for the book, yeah. When it comes
to tell everybody about what you do, because it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah. So we write people's book, like write subject matter experts books, and basically it's all done with AI. Obviously, we have people looking at it after, etc. But like the entire book, 150 pages, 50,000 words, and what's special, which I know we'll touch on after, is we have a process where we tell people we'll write your book, and then if you like it, you pay. Like no credit card, nothing. So we take all the risk. People give us information, we write the book, And there's a lot of reason why it works well. We get them to buy in, so they have to spend like 20 minutes, fill out a form, like they buy in into the process, etc. So like that's the overview of what we do. But in terms of like the content, and I don't like talking shit about other people. I'm not going to mention names, but there's a lot of other softwares out there that write books. I've tried them all, obviously, because before building the system I built, like I've said, I'm just going to arbitrage it. I'm going to use other people and resell it. But I'm going to make it easy, at least to get started. And I tried it and it was horrible. Like clearly AI written. And so I ended up building it. But to get content written like a human, there's two things you can do. The first thing, much, much harder. That's the one we do most of the time. And I'll start with the second thing. The second thing is what I've tried doing is you try to make it human like the first time, but then you rewrite the content after. So like you, in all your workflows and all these things, like I would have the first output is never the one we use, and then we rewrite it. So it's much easier to rewrite because I mean, with AI, what happens is like you'll give here's the audience, here's the product, here's this, do this, and then you have like 20 comments. You're telling it to do 20 things, and so it makes it tough. So then what we do is like we don't really care if it's not perfect the first time. Then the second output is here's the output, here's the purpose. Now we just want you to rewrite it, and then we give it like some specific guidelines because you'll see like the AI will tend to write the same things over. Like it'll start the paragraph with, "Hey, let's talk about this." Hey, and then we do like a restriction section is like, "Do not include this, do not include that, do not include that." And so this way, the output is like 10 times better with very minimal work. You just have like
just from the exclusions, like the calibrations on.
Not just the exclusion, but like the two-step process where you have the exclusions, because this way you'll see the patterns. Like if you run it a couple of times, you're like, okay, it always starts with this. It always says, have you ever considered this, or like whatever. So we'll do this process and we'll tell it. We have like, I've tried a lot of different ways, but we'll make sure it just having this process with the second part has very minimal prompts. Because you all like the core of the text is good. It's all like it talks about what you want. It's probably already the I guess the flow you want it, etc. And then what we'll do is we'll reformat. So if it's for the book or for content, it'll be like I make sure that each sentence is on their own line. And so this way, like, because we do everything at scale and these kinds of things. So we want to make sure that how can we minimize having to manually go in and fix this? Because if you do like hundreds of pieces of content, the 50,000 book and all these kinds of things, and you have to manually go in, it still works, but it's just the process it sort of defeats the purpose of doing it the way we're doing it.
Let me ask you, have you written a book?
Yeah. I wrote 6 books before AI. So, but I've published 3 of them. Like my first one in 2018 or 19, I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the first thing I did when I started my consulting business in 2019. So yeah, 2019, I wrote a book, and it worked really well. So I wrote another one like literally 1 year later. Like it's not just me taking advantage of like the AI. Like I've been using books. I've gotten partnerships from books. I've gotten like really big deals, a lot of clients this way. So to me, it's like it's never been easier to do it. Still, no one does it. Okay, so it's interesting.
There's a big perceived barrier to getting a book written, right? Like, seems like a lot of work.
Yeah.
But the way that you guys do it, the individual provides you with some information. You said it takes them about 20 minutes to complete it. And then like they just schedule a call and the book is waiting for them.
Yeah, what we do is there's a couple things, like not to get too nitty gritty, but different steps of the process. So like obviously we want to make sure it's optimized at all points, but we have people filling out their form, and it's basic things like who are you? What do you do? what is the book going to be about? Who's your audience? What do you do anything unique, like in helping your audience get whatever result? Do you already have a step-by-step process to get them to that result? All these things, because this way we can take that information and then we also include their story. So they give us the story and it's included in the book. And so like we take what they give us and then we rewrite it. Usually the output we get is not good enough and there's not specific enough. It's not true for everyone, but for most people. So we then have an automation that immediately rewrites it in a way that is going to give us enough information. And then once it's rewritten, then we run the full automation, which is like 260 plus steps. I don't, maybe more. So it goes through everything, and it sounds big, but it's like there's no code or anything. Like just because I'm not a coder.
You built this with like Zapier or Make or something similar.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Make is Zapier would never. I'm not gonna say that. I think it would be 10 times harder to do it in Zapier and 10 times more expensive because Zapier is much more expensive than Make. And so then it sort of defeats the purpose for the cost to be able to do that. But yeah, with Make, you have much more flexibility and it makes it easier. So yeah, that's what we use.
And Sam, I want to make a point here, folks. So Sam's just talking about a process that he architected with 260 steps. But I don't know if you caught that. He said, I'm not a coder. This is all done via no code. So like that's encouraging for anybody listening. If you wanted to do something like this, maybe you don't do 260 steps. But Sam's here telling you that you don't need to be a coder to be able to do something very powerful with these no-code automation tools. In particular, he's using Make. So
something funny happened. Just speaking of code, we have one part at the end where formatting and different things like that. I was like, I'm gonna use code for this to format it in a specific way. So I go on Fiverr, pay some guy like $50, writes the script, and then he's stuck at one specific part. Like he spent, that's what he said, but he spent a day on it fixing that one thing that wasn't working. I just put it on ChatGPT, said, "Hey, this is what's not working." Then it fixed the thing. Like I know it doesn't work always the first time, but and then it rewrote. I copy pasted it, like tested, and it worked perfectly. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I fixed it." It's like, why? Like, and then the guy was like, "What'd you do?" I like, "Yeah, don't worry." And like, I don't even know what happened, but it fixed it.
Very cool. Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about people. That's one of the areas that we don't spend a lot of time coding. But this is another endorsement of the fact that, hey, you don't need to be a coder if you know how to ask ChatGPT to build it for you. So great point.
Yeah.
So I know that you guys, you have been involved in AI education, using AI, but also AI education. You were early in, like you guys were some of the first on the scene last year. But you've had a few different approaches to it. And now you guys find yourself primarily focused on the authority book environment.
Yep.
Do you have other areas of the business that are leveraging AI? I mean, obviously internally, but are you guys monetizing your AI expertise beyond the authority book environment?
Yeah, I mean, some clients here and there, like the consultant, it's not something that I spend much time on because there's always much more like on the business. But yeah, anything like especially for like friends that I'll do, for example, their build process to write lead magnets, like a lot of business coaching business and these kind of things, they want to get more leads, so they do like a 2-step where they post their lead magnet and say, hey, do you want it? Yes. People reply and they book. Like they make a lot of money that way. And so they always need new lead magnets. So like I use Perplexity a lot with the Claude Opus setting. And I'll do like, it's not too much of like, I don't have the prompt obviously memorized, but I'll just ask it to research a specific subject and list like some of the top experts, what are their takes on the subject. And then I'll ask it to create like a step-by-step, maybe 3-step process, 2-step, 5-step, whatever. and then I'll write a lead magnet, and then have a separate prompt that writes the actual text. And I put that information, put it in Claude, just because I don't want it to look on the web, because I already have what I need. Put it in Claude and then write the lead magnet. Claude, personally, for writing Claude, I almost never use ChatGPT at this point. Like, it's very rare.
Wow.
Even with the new model, and we can talk about it a little more. But the output from Claude is the way it's written. I like it much more. It feels much more human, just without changing anything.
Yeah.
And it always gets what I want better, personally, than ChatGPT. Like, I'll ask it to review documents, to create step-by-step for different things. And I'll use both. Like, I'll have two screens and I'll run both at the same time. And I don't remember the last time I took the output from ChatGPT.
Wow.
It's always, for me, what I like, my preference is the output from Claude, like 9 times out of 10.
I hear that from copywriters. I hear that from like thought leaders. Claude is the one that they all use because it needs a lot less rewriting once it's done. Okay, that's a great tip. Is Claude the primary engine for what you guys are using on your book, or are you mixing it up?
No, it's too expensive for the API to write 50,000 words. I mean, it's not that expensive, but
compared to 4.0 or something, it's a lot more expensive.
Yeah, we don't use 4.0. We use the one just before.
Yeah,
4.0 is decent, but it feels like it doesn't listen as good.
It's trying to give a lot more output too, it seems like.
Yeah, because I have to test a lot. So, like, one thing, and people can, like, if you use it a lot, especially in automations, what I do is ChatGPT, the playground for the API, they now have a compare section. You can compare, like, you put one prompt, same settings, and it does the 2 models at the same time. So you can check the output really quickly.
Yeah.
Because that's what we use for writing the book. And so it's when you know, like, how to have it write in a non-AI fashion, you can still achieve, like, really good results with ChatGPT or whatever. So it still works. It's just, I feel it's a lot more work, but the API costs are so expensive for Cloud Opus that it's not worth it yet.
Do you think that, because with the spring update with ChatGPT, they announced the 4.0, and then the API cost, what is it, twice as fast and 10 times cheaper or something like that? It's a big difference in API calls now.
Yeah, it's 50% cheaper than the previous model.
Yeah.
It's still, for what we do, it's still not worth it. It doesn't, depending on what you do, it can be 100% worth it. Especially if, like, speed is important, because I know, like, a lot of AI, like, voice application that need, like, real time,
low latency.
Like, that's a no brainer, because it does, like, the job for them. But for what I personally use it's like having a 10% better output using the previous one. Even if it's twice the price, it's still worth it.
Yeah, this is another interesting concept. So just the difference in one model, same prompt, but you went from GPT-4 to GPT-4o, and your prompt isn't giving you the output from 4.0 that it was giving you from the other version now.
I prefer, because the prompts for the book, that the way we write it, the prompts are enormous. And if you don't have to use big prompts, don't, because it's much better, like, to do them step by step, personally. But in an API, and, like, if you don't want to have 20,000 steps, and we use gigantic prompts, and so it makes it tricky, because there's a lot of information, a lot of, like, audience detail, a lot of book outline, like, all these kinds of things, plus how to write. We have a lot of information to make it right in a specific way. So I feel like, since there's so much information, the GPT-4o, like, it doesn't follow everything as well. So it'll do a good job. Like, I'd say it does maybe the same job, but the problem is it's not as consistent. So it'll write the book, and then the formatting will be different in a couple chapters, or the or then it'll do something a little different, but then like it sort of defeats the purpose of for
Sure.
for what we do to have something that's not 100 like really really consistent. So that's why another really like we don't use it.
This idea of these big prompts has been coming up in conversation more and more. I was sitting with somebody here in my town who is certified through Jeff Hunter's persona method.
Okay.
Right. And, my take from that is that there's these long pre-prompts, right? Like the context that starts the actual. And, I asked him, I was like, because I use a custom GPT to translate into my voice, my written voice. Right.
Yep.
And, it's pretty good, but it's just a simple custom GPT. And I was asking, I was like, would it be that much better if I loaded that custom GPT with, this one of these prompts like you're using, these massive pre-prompts? And the other person I heard say it, John Benson, who was a guest on the podcast, pre-prompts, is that, are you guys, these big prompts coming in after, or are you also like setting the context of the chat with a big pre-prompt?
Yeah, I mean, the difference in what we do is it's all through API. So we don't use the GPT, so the Threads API, because it's so expensive, because every time you write something in it, like it adds up. It's insane how much expensive it gets with the because of the Threads API. So basically, like for people that don't know, like the GPT, it's the API to use GPTs, and so I have to use. So every time I write something, it's like a brand new chat. So like through the API, basically to write the book. So So it gets tricky to make sure that it knows what's going to come after. It knows what the book is about. It knows all these things. So every time, every prompt has like the same infrastructure, and it has all the details every single time, or else like, because then if not, then it's missing the context. And I know that's what a lot of people are doing, like to write the books, and you can tell, but it's a little bit more expensive. But the thing is, like you have obviously the token in and token out, right? So token in is significantly cheaper. So then it's not as bad when you put a bunch of stuff in, because the price is less. So it's worth, in our case, to like load these prompts. It's still, like, don't get me wrong, it's still extremely, extremely cheap to write like an entire book. Even if I have to load all the prompts and like do so many things, it's still ridiculously cheap. But yeah, so I guess different solution for the different problems that we have. But because we can't use a system prompt, because we can, but you still have to do it at every single API call. So it sort of doesn't make sense.
I mentioned before we got on the phone that one of the guests I'd recently interviewed, Isar Maitis, with his podcast, Leveraging AI, he recently had a guest on there that geeked out on that. And he figured out a way how, I'll send you the episode, but it might be the solution you're looking for.
For sure.
Very cool. But so, this is an interesting juxtaposition, because writing a book, like if I were to write a book from scratch, I just wouldn't do it. It would be, I just don't know where I'd find the time, and I'd have all the excuses of, I don't know what to write, all that kind of stuff. Right. So for individuals who are out there who think that this would be a good contribution to their positioning as a thought leader, or in their industry as a top voice, or those sorts of things, and they hear you say it's extremely cheap for me to create a book, and then they go out to some of these services and they're like, well, that's not extremely cheap. I want people to understand the technology that's producing this, to use it is extremely cheap. To build it, to get the output that you want, is not extremely cheap. That's years of practice. That is 10,000 hours for sure, of like those 260 steps, figuring those out. Trust me, their first effort at this was not 260 steps. Like, they had to figure that stuff out along the way. So I don't want you as a listener to be like, well, if it's so cheap, how come I have to pay? Because it's not the tool that's the cheap. The tool's cheap. The knowing how to use the tool, that's priceless, right? And Sam's obviously, with all the testing they've done, obviously an expert at this now. So Want to make that distinction. The tools are cheap, but the knowledge itself is not cheap.
Yeah, it's an important distinction because because like if I knew everything I know now to build it, it would have still taken a while, but 10, 20 times less than it took me to. Because there's so much, like, especially when you have like a front facing output, like let's say you create something and you don't have someone that's out like meticulously going through it, etc., before showing it to a customer. Like you have so much testing to do. Like, oh, well, if I change this a little bit, can you do it better? If I change it, then there's always like, and even the API, even when there's no change, sometimes you still feel like there's a change in the model, or for some, even it shouldn't happen, but it feels like it, like running the amounts of books and all these things we do. Like sometimes, I think it was in May, even without the new model, it's like running through the same model, and then for some reason, like the same output, there was always like an extra space in between the paragraphs. It's like I have like that's a tip for if people like are a little bit OCD like me and like you have to do a lot of tests. I have a Google sheet with all the logs of the test that I do, what date I did, like where exactly what I changed, all these things, because it gets tricky. And so I looked at it and like, I haven't changed anything, but the model, I don't know, like I don't know why. I mean, I have ideas, but anyways, it still changes. So you have to, you always have to update and tweak things. And
a workaround for that. One of our faculty that teaches automations and stuff for chief AI officers named Sean David from automatetowin.com. Sean is big on the use of seeds. Once he gets an output, he'll ask what the seed is, and he will make sure that that particular seed, which prevents that, the way he explains it, it prevents those random variations that occur from the model. And I thought that was a definite insider's tip. So when he finds output he likes, he asks it for whatever the seed is, and however he does it, and then he has it continue to use that seed in that type of output.
Interesting.
May or may not be a solution for you, but
when you use the API call, you can see what seed it used and stuff like that. So, all right, it's interesting. I mean, I'll definitely put it on my. I'm always testing new things, so I'll definitely.
Yeah, I know you are. Nice. So let me ask you. Okay, you've got the AI's got such a broad application, particularly in supporting businesses, and you've had the luxury of being not the luxury. You've earned the successes that you've had in business before even AI was on the case. So you bring to the table an understanding of what it takes to make a business successful with or without AI, right? And you've obviously invested time, testing, resources, advertising to get the Authority Book Profits environment off the ground. What's next for you? Because now that this is up and running, is it better, faster, stronger books? Or are you able to leverage this engine into something else?
Yeah, I mean, because I think the biggest thing was learning a specific way for us to build the environment, and I'll dive into that because that doesn't mean anything just saying it like that. But and then now being able to apply this and scale it. So what I mean is, so initially it was just the book, right? Started by doing only the book, and then I learned, well, if I do the book and create the output a specific way, I can then just by clicking one button then we write everyone like the content for all the social channels. So the book comes out, I click a button, there's like 400 pieces of content. I click a button, there's the copy for the funnel there with the book. There's like, so everything we do, like the Amazon book description, they build like not the funnel, but like funnel ideas. So like,
sure,
there's so many more things that like we keep adding we like whenever there's a book worksheet. So like for every chapter, every section of every chapter, we create like recaps and mini exercises so people understand and they can get that with their book. And then a course based on what's in the books, and also like understanding how you can take an output like that and then keep adding more stuff.
That makes a lot of sense.
I haven't added more stuff in a while because I'm now we're just focusing on obviously automating this more, bringing in more people, sales team, these kinds of things. But I have like there's so many more things. There's like the direct ecosystem of like they get their book and everything that goes with their book, but then with that specific audience, what else could they need? Like, and obviously it depends on because we target two different audiences, like people that want to start a business and people that already have one. So they want different things. But like for example, someone that doesn't have a business, I have like most of these already built out in my head. But it's like how can we create like we'll create their branding guide, we'll create their website, we'll create like all these things you can create from the book or from the form.
Yeah.
Like these kinds of things. Like that's what's next. And then to be honest, I don't have like it's more like a 6 months vision at a time, because it changes so fast that in 6 months there's like potentially something new that makes it so that we can do what we're doing differently. And so I'm not, I try to think further ahead, but like in terms of especially like product roadmap, it's too hard to think too far ahead at the moment.
A real paradigm changer. That's I spent a lot of my career focused on strategy. This AI, like the strategy can't be a 5-year strategy. It's got to be like 6 months, like you're talking about here, because the next release could do something that you've been waiting, like you've been trying to figure out. Yeah, it's crazy. I like that idea. If you're, are you currently providing the individuals with all the marketing collateral that they need, or this is what's on the product roadmap for enhancements?
We had one of our clients like a 1-sentence post to pre-sell their book, not even pre-sell, like use their book as a lead magnet, saying like, hey, who wants this book about this to get this outcome? And they already have an audience, so it's like not a beginner, but they closed 60,000 of business in 48 hours from the book, and they didn't have the book. Like we're trying to make it easier, and not like, because my first instinct is like, well, I'll go crazy. Like I'll build like the heck out of this thing. I'll be too complicated, and people won't. Then you get people like overwhelmed, and they don't, even if someone like a high level, there's different types of overwhelm. Like they just don't have time to like understand what they can even do with it versus someone at a lower level. But anyways, but so I try to, now it's come to the point where it's, how can I basically take this and make it simpler? And so we obviously we have things like we either just do their book, or we do their book plus content plus funnel and all these things. So depending on the case, we do like most of the marketing and like marketing content, the podcast, and then there's like a mini course comes with it too, because some people like once they have their book, they want to know how to clone their voice and AI. Like it's super basic, but I know you've experienced too, like how crazy that most people still don't know what we feel, like what we take as granted, that are the most basic things. Before
this call, I had the privilege of being able to present to an executive team on some very basic stuff, right? And you're right. If you use the tools, and that's what I tell people, is that the tools aren't the hard part, right? Like if you didn't have the business experience that you had with FBA and with professional career and all the stuff you've done prior, big deal. You know the tools, but you don't know how to where to use them, right? It requires that individual having, like, I tell people all the time, if you're going to learn AI, don't think of it as like, now I got to change my career. Heck, the hard part, like, all the stuff in that industry. Now, if you can learn the tools, you can very easily see, oh, this tool fits over here. If you don't know the industry, you can't do that. So it's not just the tools, it's that business experience that you brought to the table with you. I love the idea of, so I used to be an advisor for Tucker Max, had a book company called Book in a Box, and it was called Scribed. Yeah. And like I loved what he, like, we'd do this and we do that, and they had a book, and like, you can do all of that stuff now. And listen, to work with Scribe at the time, to have them do like their best package was 6 figures, right?
Yeah.
now you guys, maybe you can't go and organize an event like they were doing or something, like a book launch tour or something, but everything up to that point that a publisher would be doing for you, uh, like you can now compete with them with your automations. And what, you probably got like a couple of humans that are in the loop that kind of approve things and push things along.
Yeah, right now there's like one part-time VA, because
Yeah.
it's a good thing with the eyes, like the way I look at it, like the most basic form is like, how can I save time, save
Yeah.
money, do more, right? Like that's the like it's super basic. That's the three things. And so like I try to live, like, especially I feel like for your clients, you have to be doing what you're telling them to do and like all these things. So
Yes.
like we use it internally, and I sometimes I don't have to use it, and I'll still get in the habit of using it. And I like
Yep.
I build SOPs for our VA, saying, hey, when someone needs to revise the book, like just take this, do this, and they use AI to do it. And um, so yeah, it's it. So we can get by with like a super small team for when it comes to like editing and all these things, because with AI, I think the thing that I realized the most, like most especially last year when I was more like teaching people, is like the limitations or the false beliefs that they have when it comes to AI, like what it can and can do. Because and I feel like that's in everything, but it with AI it's like they easily dismiss it, where they'll try it one time
Right.
and they'll be like, nah, AI can't do this, AI can do that, AI can do this. And I used to have like an analogy where I forgot exactly because it's been like almost a year since I used it, but like you have, let's say you want to pick up a sport, that you pick up a basketball, you shoot at the basket, you're like, oh, it didn't go in, like it
I'm no
doesn't
good.
work. The
Yeah.
ball's broken, the net doesn't work. Like it, that feels like what they try with they do one thing half-assed. It's like, oh, it didn't work, it must be that this doesn't work, rather than I just don't know how to do it. It's AI is a skill, like at the end of the day. That's how I see it anyway.
Yes.
Like if you don't train, if you don't learn, yeah, you'll get a bad outcome.
That's a great way to look at it. AI is a skill. Because the quote that I saw recently that I liked a lot, it was from McKinsey, and it's the quote was something like, "It's not about the tools; it's about how the tools fit together." And that answering that question, how these tools fit together, that is the skill. It's not, oh, I know how to use ChatGPT. Yeah, but you know how to use it to do what? You're going to use it like Google, like big deal. But if you have that skill, then you have created a competitive advantage at a minimum for
Oh
sure.
yeah.
So what like I guess it's just going to be digging deeper on the books, the authority book environment, and continuing to just make that a bigger, better, faster product for your clients.
Yeah, this and like I personally don't do a lot of content. I know we had this discussion like
Yeah. Yeah.
like 6 months ago, but
Yep.
I'm starting now. Uh,
Good.
I'm in the planning stages. Next few in a week or two, I'll start doing content, um, and so like that's good, because I had this realization, which is funny. Like I'll say it because it might be helpful for other people, and it's so obvious, but I'm like, I don't want to do content about this specific thing, or will it be helpful? And the thing is, like, doing it, just doing it is better than nothing. And like if you talk about
Correct.
what you want to talk about rather than trying to optimize for views and all, which is I know it's not the right thing to do, because I don't need, like, and I know you don't either, you don't need a lot of views when
Yeah.
you're targeting a specific someone, especially like in our cases where it's more like professionals, and you may be more like even enterprise at some level. You don't, you can have like 10 views and you have one enterprise that watches it, that's like a 6-figure contract and like these kinds of things. So I get sort of in this mindset of, I'll just do it because
Yeah.
it's gonna, like the way I did everything that served me so well, which I don't know why I didn't approach content with, was I'll do it to learn. Like what skill can I learn by
I'm the
doing
same
it, that
way.
even if it's like not the perfect outcome or whatever, I can still win. And for me, I'm not a good communicator personally. Like it's never something I worked on a lot. And so doing content, learning a little bit more about like public speaking, these kinds of things will help me do better content, but also like be a better leader and stuff like that. So that I sort of rephrased it in my mind. I'm going to do it this way. And then now I'm excited to do it. So I'm like, okay, I'm sort
Nice.
of putting the pieces behind the scenes to do it. Because the good thing with AI is like, obviously I keep learning. Like, okay, instead of doing it how I would have done it before with AI, now I'm going to do it a different way. And so it makes it, I'm trying to put it in a way where it's going to be fun to do. So the content part is going to be like a big piece coming in the next few weeks. And then one thing which I started, but I was supposed to release something last month to like our private clients and then publicly, which was it's going to be part of like the content, which is like AI experiments. Just because I always do
Wow.
random
Yep.
stuff all the time, but I
Very
never share
cool.
it with anyone, right? So I
Yep.
like everything we build for ourselves and for our clients, and obviously I can't share everything. Some things that, but there's a lot of cool things that I build, and then I build them. I give them to my friends, and then they
Yep.
never see like the light of the day, and it could be helpful.
Yep.
So I'm like, how can I just take
I think it's a
this?
great idea.
Because last month I was gonna do. It's almost done. Then I had like other big projects, so I'm like put it on the back burner. But I did an experiment. Like I'm gonna write 30 books in 30 days, and
Whoa.
but like it's not. I can write 200 books in one day, like with my
Yeah.
automation. But it's not like I don't say it, but like I don't say I can do this, then I'll only do 30. So because then it sort of removes the. But I'm doing them a little bit differently, and then I'm going to publish all of them, not just write them and like publish them and like do. And then it's like a different niche which I never been in. I'm interested in for potentially different projects later. So I'm saying, so
Yeah.
once again, trying to put like a bunch of different pieces together. Um, like all the books are like either done or I just need to put them in an automation, press go, and they'll be done. But uh, I'm going to sign no. But like this is like the kind of thing that I'm as like the core business of writing the books is getting more automated, bring in more people. I can sort of not be the one doing everything and like focus on these cool things that I enjoy and that I'm going to
Yeah.
do anyway and can provide value.
That's wonderful. Hey, Sam, so as we draw to a close, how can people find out? I know that we've got people that are very interested about finding out more about this book and hell, maybe even having you guys write the book for them. Where do they need to go to learn more about that?
It's authoritybookprofits.com. And as we said, the good thing is there's no risk, right? You opt in, you fill in the form, and we'll write the book. And then if you don't like it, we don't pay. We don't take in your credit card or anything. So literally, we've had competitors get
You
the
can't
book.
compete with that, man.
Yeah,
That's tough.
we have like big names in the industry, which I'm not going to mention, but like go through the funnel,
Yep.
just fill the funnel, like try to funnel hack and like these kind of things. So it's fun to see. But well, like if you want the book written, like it's free. There's no obviously the book if you want to buy it. And I'm gonna make this clear because just to be clear, we don't send you the book and then wait to hear back from you if you want to buy it. You get on the sales call, we show the book, and then so we don't like actually give people, hey, here's the book and hopefully you pay us like that. That would be a little dumb, but so that's sort of how we do it because maybe another like I recently did a training on what we call the reverse lead gen for like a mastermind of one of my friends, which
Uh-huh.
is the concept of how to use AI the way we're using it to get more leads at cheaper, more sales, and this kind of thing, which is, and what I shared, like get the book for free and we write it, like that's like one of three ways you can use
It's
it.
clever. Yeah.
And we use it for like, we're going to use it more for lead gen
Yeah.
because like, I'll leave with that because I know you have to go to, but
That's a nugget.
there's for lead gen, depending on what you're doing, like sometimes you have to think harder on how it applies, but I'm almost guaranteed it applies to pretty much everyone, is like, what is the result you give people? Like, what's the first step that they would need to go through or whatever? And then, so what I mean is, let's say product research. I did this, the first time I did it for a friend was for Amazon, like the product research. We created an automation that they would fill in the form, and we would look at obviously their form and then create a brand, like a product report on here's the product, here's the things you should change, here's the branding. And like people in the industry charge $200, $500, $1,000 for these kind of things. And I said, let's just create this. You give it for free, but then you get so many more, like much more leads, because you're changing the game. And you're making it like a no-brainer for people to opt in, and then you get them on a sales call, because then it's like, hey, you have this, but now that you have this first step, how about we help you do step 3, 4, 5, 6? So like these kinds of that's like the similar way to use it, but for something completely free, but to book calls. And there's other way, but like that. So I'm sort of always like trying to think about like crazy
saving
things.
The best for last here, huh? That's a great tip.
I have more, but like maybe for a round 2, but like I'm always trying to think about these kinds of things of how can we like maybe disrupt a little bit how people do things. How can we make it a no risk offer? How can we make it better than others, stand out, like these kinds of things? And last year we came up with this strategy, and I mean, that's sort of the core of the business of how we do business at the moment. And it's a great way to do it. It's super cheap. You get cheaper leads. De-risked
for both parties.
Yeah. And you can position it as, like the book, we position it as, like, listen, everyone has, everyone's, basically, you always have risk. Like people will say, hey, pay us. And then if you don't get the result, well, you still have to pay. And then there's always this hassle. Like there's never anything risk-free, right? There's never anything. But that's not how we say it, but like that's, but in our case, it's like, there's no credit card, there's nothing. Like, if you don't like it, you don't pay, we don't. And so then it was like trying to make it the only like risk-free option.
I love it.
Out there. And so that's a cool little tip strategy to use.
On my flight to Austin to the World AI Summit this afternoon, I'm going to be thinking about how do I de-risk what we're doing. I think it's a fantastic idea. It's just a matter of like, okay, now I've got something to think about. Okay. But Sam, thank you so much, man. I know that we worked on getting this and you were abroad. Now you come back, and I've enjoyed getting to know you guys and what you're doing over there. I'm really impressed with you guys get it, right? Y'all are doing it the right way. You understand it. You're leveraging it. You're a perfect example for people that are looking to learn how to use AI at work. So thank you so much for being a guest here. And folks, that was Authority Book Profits. I can tell you from personal experience and the experience of all of my peers, those with books have a level of authority, of a perceived authority in the marketplace that it's hard to replicate with any other tool out there. So if this is something that you're looking to do for your career, I would discourage you from sitting down at the coffee shop with a notepad and starting to write. I would encourage you to go to Authority Book Profits and see if their output matches what you're looking for. Because if you can get a book done that fast and have that be on Amazon, and now you're advertising it and you're showing people, hey, I'm a thought leader, right? Like obviously I've got a book out, right? That positioning in the marketplace is priceless. So Sam, thank you so much for making it easy for people. And I look forward to collaborating with you guys on some stuff in the future.
Yeah, my pleasure. This was fun. I never do this, so
you need to do it more.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Using AI at Work. Don't forget to subscribe for more conversations about how to use AI at work. And a special thank you to our sponsor, Chief AI Officer, for empowering businesses with AI education and training. Visit their website for a free AI readiness assessment and AI strategy guide to help you get started using AI at work. That's www.chiefaiofficer.com. Special thanks to our producer, Evan DeSaulnier, for making this episode possible. Follow us on Twitter at the handle Using AI at Work, and visit www.usingaiatwork.com for free resources to help you harness AI in your role.